Welcome to Overcaffeinated and Out of Effs, the podcast for burned out, career-minded moms who are ready to stop pretending everything's fine and feel like themselves again. I'm your host, Christy Amir, burnout coach for moms, licensed therapist, and mom of two. And I'm here to help you reclaim your energy, your identity, and your peace of mind. Whether you're lying awake thinking about the 87 things you didn't get done, or silently resenting the people you love most, this is your space to feel seen, supported, and not so alone. So grab your coffee, hot, cold, or day old, and let's get into it. Hey everybody, it's Christy. Welcome to Overcaffeinated and Out of Effs. In today's episode, I'd like to welcome our guest, Asha Paulose. Asha is a mom of one son. She has a supportive husband and aging parents on both sides. After becoming a mom, Asha experienced burnout after spending years trying for another child. She then put herself first, and everyone did better as a result. Asha is the founder of the law office of Asha Paulose PC, a boutique elder law and estate planning firm based in Vardonia, New York. With over 15 years of legal experience, Asha established her firm in 2022 to provide personalized guidance on elder law, Medicaid planning, estate planning, probate, and administration, serving clients across the Hudson Valley, New York City, and Long Island. So I've invited Asha here today to share her story as a burned out working mom. And we're specifically going to really talk about and focus on not only how she navigated those challenges of working and raising her child, but also how she navigated the mental and emotional challenges related to her fertility journey. So, Asha, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Can you maybe start off by telling us just a little bit more about yourself, maybe a bit about your work, your family, what season of motherhood you're in right now?
Yeah, I am an estate planner in New York. I do the regular wills and advance directives, but then I also help people navigate aging and long-term care. I am at the stage of motherhood where I am, driving my kid everywhere, like I'm a driver, and and also just handling the emotional part of it.
Oh,
He's a pretty good kid.
okay. And how old is he now?
He's 10 now. Yeah.
He's 10. Okay. So really in that, sort of middle childhood age where maybe he's getting some more independence, but still is relying pretty heavily on you for a lot of things. It sounds like you're kind of like at that point.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I would love to go back to, your earlier year parenting years. So I believe, so you had said that you started your practice in 2022. So it sounds like that was, after your son was born, quite a few years later. I'd be interested to know a little bit more about, what your work situation was like when he was born. So were you working? If so, what type of work were you doing? How long were you up before going back? And I'm really interested in hearing more about what that specific time and maybe transition was like for you.
Yeah, I was working in the city in Manhattan, and I had, a wonderful job there. It was so fun. And I think, after you get married, I thought, okay, I have to do the things. I have to plan ahead. And I felt like, okay, I got to get a job closer to home so I can plan for the kids that I'm going to have. And need a 9 to 5. I need something that's a little low stress. And there was good coworkers, a nice boss, great benefits, a good maternity package, all of that stuff. I did the thing. I planned ahead. So that's what I did. I got a nice corporate job. It wasn't a legal job. It wasn't something that I had studied to do, but it was a great and fulfilling, rewarding job. And that's what I did before I had my son.
Okay. And then you had mentioned that you spent several years, after that trying for another child. If you're comfortable, do you mind telling us a little bit about your fertility journey and what that was like for you?
Yeah, uh, trying for my son and any kids after, it's a long journey.
Mhm.
It's filled with, a lot of hope, a lot of disappointment, and, um, like a lot of guilt. And it's so hard not to let it seep into every part of your life. So,
Mhm.
what you eat, what you do for the week, what you plan for, the rest of your month, year. And it also affects your job, like, oh, should I go for that raise? Should I go for that promotion? I might have to take maternity leave in any minute now, like
Mhm.
so all of that stuff really affects you. And oh, can I ask for another morning off to do IVF rounds or whatever? Will my boss understand? Is this appropriate to chat about? All of it was so hard to navigate. And I
Mhm.
don't think, you know, I don't think there's any training or class, that we
Mhm.
learned in school to talk about this kind of stuff. Like, especially, you know, I'm because I'm older, I think a lot of it was not discussed, like you're not
Mhm.
supposed to talk about your pregnancy. And if anything, it's like a negative when we were growing up because it meant that you would lose your job or maybe not
Mhm.
get a promotion.
Well, yeah, and to your point, I mean, I think that, yes, there are a lot of people who don't necessarily wanna be as open about their pregnancies, especially when there's a concern about what will this mean for work? What will people at work think? All of those sorts of things. But then again, especially because you were doing fertility treatments, that is something that I think, also has this element of, privacy, silence. A lot of people don't really talk about that as much as well, so there's that other layer to this, of course. And you mentioned, having to take all these appointments, take time for these appointments and things like that. Will your boss understand?
Yeah.
How did you navigate all of that? For starters, I'm wondering, did you feel like you were in a supportive work environment where there was more understanding, or, how did you manage that?
I think I think no matter how supportive your family, your partner, your job is, it's such a deeply solo journey that you go through in your in
Mhm.
your journey. So, I think I was trying to find it in all different ways. Like, I was taking acupuncture, I was doing therapy, I was doing, massages, and I did a dietitian. Like, all this stuff was
Mhm.
like, coming at you. And I think, man, how great would it have been to have a coach like you during that time to be like,
Mhm.
"Hey, this might be how to get focused more on work," because I think it really took a toll on my job. I couldn't
Mhm.
navigate balancing the emotional part of everything about fertility and just doing my work every day. It was too
Mhm.
difficult. And I
Well,
think yeah.
and if I'm understanding right, so it sounds like you were fortunate enough to be in a situation where you did have a supportive boss, you did have a supportive partner. Not everybody has that, but it sounds like you were fortunate enough that you did. But it sounds like a lot of the struggles around, again, focusing on work and doing all of that, it sounds like was maybe more internalized. And that was really a challenge for you.
Yeah, I think if I had someone to be like, "Hey, it's okay to take like a week off after suffering a loss. It's
Mhm.
okay. That's normal,
Mhm.
instead of
Yeah.
rushing back to work the next, day. Or I don't know, just things that you just exactly like you said, like internalize. You think, "Oh, my boss is gonna fire me if I don't go back to work," or if I ask for another round, if I do
Mhm.
another round, I'm for sure gonna lose my job, and then I'll have nothing. I won't even have kids, and I won't even have a job. Like, what, So you're just balancing that all out, and to have somebody to just be like, "Hey, it's okay to take those days off. It's okay to have this hour. Your boss is not gonna fire you. You're doing a great job at work. Like, it's okay."
Mhm.
Would have been really helpful. Yeah.
Well, and And also, again, so you're talking about, the challenges with, like, the appointments and fears around what's it gonna mean for my job, and then the other part of this, of course, is too, is that you also had your son at home, right? So while you are dealing with all of these things, mentally and emotionally with your fertility journey, you're also, I imagine, trying to be, present at home, for him. So how did you manage all of that? I'm curious, like, what was that experience mentally and emotionally like for you?
Yeah, I think, there was a lot of anger,
Mhm.
a lot of frustration,
Mhm.
and, uh, because I had gone through it before my son, I when I went back to work after having my son, and again, they had maternity and it was great,
Mhm.
package, um, I just thought, "Man, I'm gonna have to do this whole thing again. I'm gonna have to
Mhm.
ask for, the same boss, ask for the same days off, and, can I go through this again?" And it turned out I couldn't. I just couldn't handle that, like, that
Mhm.
same process. So,
Mhm.
um, my job was so, like, so so nice, like, the company was really good, and they offered these programs like, work enhancement programs like book clubs and, classes and things like that. And one of them was a book called, Strengths Minders,
Mhm.
kinda like Myers-Briggs or, Enneagram or something like that.
Mhm.
And when I took the when I took the test in the book, it basically said, uh, "All of your amazing skills, you are not using any of your top 4 or 5 in your."
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, I realized like, "Oh, I can have the best boss, the best, coworkers, the best benefits, but I'll never be kind of fulfilled in the job because I'm not using my strengths at the end of the."
Mhm. Mhm.
So, I thought, "I gotta I gotta get out of this place." And, it was a lot of small, but meaningful shifts
Mhm.
to realize I I have to be kind of happy with the things that I have because it's incredible and to
Mhm.
move forward, but still have the hope that maybe I could have another,
Mhm.
yeah, and
So
that's hard, man, that's hard.
yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. So it sounds like sort of this combination of, the emotional, the physical toll, all of that, was you were taking on, but then also realizing that you weren't using all of these strengths, so this combination of, this is all really hard and I'm not doing these things that could really, really be good for me. It sounds like that was sort of the point when you realized, okay, like I can't do this anymore. I need to figure out another way to move forward.
Yeah, I think every woman's fertility journey is different, and what I could say is I did, like, everything physically and emotionally as much as I could, to my breaking
Mhm.
point, and
Mhm.
everybody's breaking point is different, and
Mhm.
it's not fair to say, "Hey, why don't you do IVF?" Or, "Why don't you," like, whatever, "adopt," or, like, all this
Mhm.
stuff where everybody's got, like, their limitations, like, how much they can do, and when I reached it, I was like, "Okay, I gotta just move forward," but it's a long process to accept it. I think it's at the same time you're going through this journey of, "Why can't you just be happy, Asha? You have 1 child," like, "Why
Mhm.
can't you just live the life and be okay with it?" But there's, kind of like this unsettling grief that occurs where you are happy for your life, but also just so sad for what you wished would have been the case, what you planned for, what you hoped for, like,
Mhm.
so, I think, that was a small shift, to realize, "Okay, I'm not using my potential in my job," so I, changed jobs. It was crazy for everybody. Everyone
Mhm.
around me was like, "Why would you do this?"
Mhm.
Because it was a pay cut. The corporation that I worked in was unbelievable. It had, like, what the matching 401k, like,
Mhm. Mhm.
unheard of. But it was the best decision I ever made. Uh, to do
Well, and I love that you're talking about that because I think a lot of times people have an idea in mind of what moving forward really looks like, what quote unquote success really looks like. And I do think that that's different for a lot of people. Not everybody is going to prioritize, the salary and the matching 401k. I mean, those things are obviously great and they're important, but there are other important things too. And what people value and what they prioritize and how that, ideal scenario looks for them is going to be different from person to person. So
Which
I
is,
love,
like, such a strange concept. I thought, "No, no, no, the success is a corner office, high salary, huge retirement, big house," like, that's all of the things I thought, and now I'm like, "Man, how successful am I that I get to pick up my kid every day from the bus,"
yeah.
or I don't know, or successful enough to do the things that I wanna do in terms of my job and gripe about it every morning. Just
Yeah, well, I think there's always a cost, right? To your point, there's always a trade-off. And so
Sure.
maybe you can have the big corner office and you can have the big salary and you can do all these things. And for some people that is wonderful,
Yeah.
and maybe that costs time. Maybe that costs energy. Maybe that costs all these other things. Whereas if you decide, hey, I would really rather have flexibility and have more time in my day and I want to be able to pick my son up from school and I want to be able to do these other things. Maybe if that's feeling more important to you, and not that it has to be one or the other. It's like I think for everybody, it's sort of about figuring out what our priorities, what our values really are, and then figuring out how to balance them in a way that does work best for us. So I'm
Yeah.
so glad that like you mentioned that. One of the other things that I was curious about, you had mentioned that, you just had to get to this point where you just had to sort of accept things and move on, right? And although I completely agree with that, I also imagine for a lot of people it's easier said than done, right? And so I'm curious, like what really helped you to get to that point of acceptance?
Yeah, I really, I don't want anyone to think it's like, I woke up one day and I was like,
Mhm.
I did I have, a sad thought yesterday about this? Yeah, like, it's always gonna be in the back of your head, and it doesn't go away, but it gets extremely better. That's all I
Mhm.
can say. So there was, like, little shifts that happened, so I changed my job because I thought, "Hey, I have this extra time and energy, and we don't need the funds. Why not take that leap and do something that I wanna do?" Like, God gave me this time and extra time and energy, so why not? And, the other thing was we were looking for a home, and we looked for, like, a year, and for a year, I looked up big houses because we wanted a big family. Oh, it
Mhm.
had to be 5 bedrooms,
Mhm.
it had to be this, it had to be a big backyard, all this stuff, and, once we kind of talked, "Okay, maybe a smaller house is okay," it made life easier, like, we got the house, there was a little bit more independence, it was the best thing we've ever done to purchase the house.
Mhm.
And it opened up a lot more doors, for my son as well. And then it was only, like, maybe 2 years after that
Mhm.
that I had a big garage sale, and I got rid of all the baby clothes, got rid of all the toys, like, said
Mhm.
goodbye to that.
Mhm.
So, it wasn't an overnight thing. It was slow
Mhm.
steps. But all of it culminated to this idea that, you know I remember my sister-in-law telling me, like, "Ugh, I if you have this opportunity, why try to fit into this, big family box? Like, why are you acting like you have more kids when you have the advantage of
Mhm.
having a smaller family? Take the advantage. So,
Mhm.
go on the trips, like, you know, do the things that you wanna do, visit the people that you wanna visit, and open your own business if you want to. Like, that
Yeah.
was I know I could not have done all this without. without moving forward in my life. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm curious, I feel like everything that you've been saying about this is just so interesting and it's so helpful and valuable. For the moms who are going through, this fertility journey right now, who are maybe having a hard time, maybe having some challenges, is there anything specific that you would want to say to them or you would want them to know?
Yeah, I know. It's so hard because every journey is different, and I don't want anyone to think, "Oh, she gave up on her and I should give up too." I think what I can safely say is I did everything that I could possibly do, you
Mhm.
know? And if you can say that to yourself, then there's a little bit of peace as you move forward. But
Mhm.
that 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 um that sadness and frustration, and I mean, I was angry, man, because
Mhm.
we are the kind of people that did everything by the book. We followed all the rules. We did everything, the church, the parents, the Bible, everything that,
Mhm.
community, like everybody told us to do. And the fact that this didn't come the way we expected was such a loss for us. It's so heartbreaking, but it, it, that feeling gets so much better as you get older, you know?
Mhm.
It's like there's a point where you're just like, "Oh, I'm so happy with my life and how it turned out, and I'm so grateful," and
Mhm.
I felt that way before, you
Well,
know?
yeah, and it sounds like, at the time, you weren't able to see that. It sounds like that's something and maybe you couldn't really imagine yourself getting to the point
Couldn't
of being
imagine.
able to feel that way, but
Yeah,
it went on, and as you went through this healing and as, you moved towards this acceptance, it sounds like that started to really change and shift for you.
it wasn't one thing, and I'm sorry I can't give someone that, like, perfect solution.
Yeah.
It wasn't one thing, it was a slow just pushing through it, and I imagine it's the same for anybody who has experienced loss or grief, like, it's just something you have to, like, kinda push through, but I just, I we went through so many things to help us push through it, like, whether
Yeah.
it's church or whether it's therapy or whether it's just, a more physical, like, lifestyle, like,
Mhm.
you know, going on those hikes or seeing nature, like, just being good to yourself is, like, really but I think what shifted the most is when I opened the practice, because
Mhm.
to me it felt like, "Oh, this is this was why it all," like, "This is the reason," because
Yeah.
there's no way I could have, done this and something else. Uh, there's a need there's a gap in the community where I'm from, where, they're first generation and nobody has really experienced aging and long-term care, and, um, uh, there's a need to learn more, to have information, and I feel like I'm filling that need, and if
Mhm.
it wasn't, um, for everything that occurred, I couldn't be there for the community, so I I can't believe
Mhm.
it was not something I imagined in my dreams that this is something I could do,
Well, and
and
I'm curious too, I'm sorry, were you
yeah,
I
no,
didn't
no, no.
okay. Well, I'm curious too more about sort of this transition between the 2, right? And so you did say that eventually, you put yourself first and everything changed. And it sounds like it ended up being a really great decision for you. It sounds like you're really happy with where you're at right now. But I'm curious, like at that time, when you did decide to put yourself first, what fears, what emotions, what came up for you then, that you had to manage in order to feel good about, and to push through and really be able to start prioritizing yourself?
Yeah, I think you have to push through the guilt,
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I'm doing this for myself," like, push through, um, all of those, what ifs, all those things and move forward. "Hey, we're gonna take that extra 3rd bedroom and make it an office," it's not gonna
Mhm.
be what we hoped it would be. It's gonna be my new dream, my new project,
Mhm.
Um But I, I don't know. I think I just feel like when you re remove all of those thoughts in your brain, it leaves room for something you couldn't even imagine. You know, like
Mhm.
I didn't imagine any of this. So sorry, I didn't even know. I didn't even hear what you said. I'm so
Oh, no, that's okay. Well, and I'm also wondering, because I had just been asking about, the fears and the challenges, as you decided to make the shift and start prioritizing yourself. But I'm also wondering, when you did that, when you really just started showing up for yourself differently, did anything surprise you about how other people responded to that change, responded to that shift?
yeah, I think I think I was a so this is different from what we're talking about, but um at work I was different. I don't know if it's the way my brain works, neurotypical, so I don't know. It could be anything. But when I would go to work, I was always about the people around me. Like, I would
Mhm.
be like, "Oh, good morning. How are you?" I would talk to them for 2 hours. Would get some
Mhm.
work done from 11 to 12, and then I would do lunch, like, so it was a little distracting for me, and so I thought when I worked from home, I would be the same. I would be distracting. I would watch TV all day or take naps and overextend myself and say yes to everything. But what was surprising to me and others is that I kind of did the opposite, where I understood boundaries. I understood um, saying no to things and being a homebody for the reason of supporting the family that's in this home and
Mhm.
the clients that I serve. So that was such a shift for me.
Mhm.
I think a lot of, moms do this or maybe I felt this way that when you have a 9 to 5 and then you have to rush home, there's no me time. So
Mhm.
you are just, like, trying to get that me time, whether it's, like, squeezing a nail appointment between 9 to 5
Mhm.
or, like, setting up a ladies' night and then, like, having a novel group chat discussing the ladies' night, like
Mhm.
craving that me time. I think this working from home or having this own business kind of scratched that itch, like made it like, okay, I get my me time. I get enough time to focus on my job, but I also can clear my brain so that I have enough time to focus on my kid and the household and my husband. So I think they benefited the most from it. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
they're like, "Ugh, mom's here all the time."
No, I understand that, and I feel like I can relate to a lot of what you're saying, because I also left a job, I worked in a mental health agency, and now I'm in private practice, and of course, as we talked about before, there's always a trade-off, in this case, it was when you're self-employed, you don't have a consistent salary, right? And so that in itself can
So
it's
hard.
it's hard, it's unpredictable,
Yeah.
but the benefits that I love are that, to your point, like, I have more flexibility, and I can put my kids on and off the bus, and I can have more control over, like, what my day-to-day looks like, which is huge, but that's just what works for us, just like we were talking about what works for you. It's different for everybody. I think for a lot of people, there's sort of a challenge around really figuring out what does that ideal scenario look like, and then working through the expectations that maybe you had and working through the feelings that come along with it and knowing that maybe it is okay to do things differently if it's ultimately going to work better and you don't necessarily have to do things the way that you were taught you were, like, quote unquote supposed to, so I really relate to a lot of what you're saying. Now, you did mention that you found the opposite and you found that it was you were able to put more boundaries in place and boundaries are really important and things like that. um I'm curious though, did you find any of that to be a challenge with, establishing boundaries? Was it hard for you to set and maintain those once you started to create this new life for yourself?
Um, Yeah, I mean, the people pleaser is always going to be there. So, most of my clients are from the community that I grew up in. They treat me like their daughter, and so some of them, um, will be like, "Oh, come in the evening," or "Come on the weekends," or "Is this the right price?" or "Is there a discount?" So,
Mhm.
there are times that I struggle, and it's hard,
Mhm.
but I think if you asked me 10 years ago, I would be like, "Oh, I couldn't deal with any of it," because because they're so important to me, because they're, so meaningful to me, these clients, they treat I look at them like my own parents, they treat me like their daughter. The things that they say, um, I'm older now, so maybe I have a thicker skin, but I don't think I could have handled it 10 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, every house I go to their homes, every house I go into, there's always a, "Only one son? Only one son coming?"
Mhm.
Or, if they go outside, they'll see, like, what kinda car I drive, they'll be like, "Oh, is this your car?" Like,
Mhm.
they're like your parents, they want the best for you.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I think that, I don't think I could have handled it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear that. So, okay, so it sounds like maybe well-intentioned, right? These things that people are saying, maybe they're not meaning anything
They're
by it,
amazing.
maybe they're
They're
not
a
real.
mess.
Yeah, but it can still be hard. So, I'm curious, like, as we're talking about community and people and supports, what have you found, what support systems have you found that have made the biggest difference for you in your life?
Yeah, and again, I wanna preface this by saying only 1 kid, so
Hey.
I'm not saying, like, "Oh, uh, anyone can do this." And the other thing is, because I had a business, I had a partner who had insurance, like, so all of these
Mhm.
things helped the situation. So my experience is definitely different from others. It's very privileged. But however, I think my support system, like my parents, our parents, but they're aging now, but before they're always just so emotionally and just great. Um, and then, our siblings have been so good to us, and our family and friends, but I wanna give a little shout out to, my soccer moms.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I've talked about this before, but we've all invested in it when they were little. Like, when they were in
Yeah.
pre-K and kindergarten, we sucked it up, and we went to all the birthday parties, and we didn't wanna chat with each other, but we did it, and we knew it would be helpful, and, after years of us understanding each other, "Oh, how does she parent? How does he parent?" After knowing all that, we are truly being, rewarded now because we
Mhm.
have such a close, set of parents, and they'll pick up my kid, I'll pick up their kid, and that kind of trust is not done overnight, and so, if you are struggling to go to that birthday party at 10 AM at Chuck E. Cheese or whatever, just know, like, it's all worth it. It's all worth it to
Yeah.
show, like, "Hey, this is how I'm a good mom, and I'm showing it off by going to this birthday party, and so you can trust me, and, hey, why don't you show me how I can trust you?" And,
Mhm.
like,
Mhm. Well, and
so
over time, like you said, I mean, you're all sort of going through the challenges together. You're it's hard. I mean, I'm not a soccer
weird.
mom. Well, yeah, we're just my youngest is just starting soccer, but no, I feel like I identify more with the dance moms, but same
Yes,
idea,
yes.
right? We're getting into
Yeah.
competition season right now, and yeah, I mean, I really lean on them a lot for support, and so I absolutely hear what you're saying, but like anything, those relationships, they take time, but it sounds like for you, it's really been well, and for me too, but it's really been worth the investment, because
And worth it.
you're all in it together, and even though everybody's families and experiences are different, there are also a lot of things that I'm sure you are very similar between you all too.
Yeah, I didn't realize how important it would be, and I think we were kind of forced to. I think COVID kinda made us a little bit more craving, other parents and, other
Mhm.
kids' attentions, but and maybe 'cause he's an only child, I think I go out of my way to, um, you know meet with other, have the most amount of play dates ever.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
I think all of it was worth it for now, when it's in 4th grade, it's really made an investment. When I feel people are like, "I'm overwhelmed," or "I can't handle it," I'm like, "This is what you should do."
Yeah, yeah. Well, and one of the things that I love about having these conversations, one of the things I love about this podcast is it really gives other moms an opportunity to hear other people's stories because I think a lot of times our struggles can feel so isolating and very individual, and it can be this sense of like loneliness in a lot of cases. And I really just want other moms to know that they're not alone in the things that they're going through. And even if people's experiences are different, there's still so much that other moms can really relate to through their experiences. And so, with that in mind, I'm curious, is there anything that you can think of that you struggled with that you thought you were alone in, but now you're realizing, like, hey, there's so many other moms who go through this too?
Yeah, I think, uh, all of the things that I did at work, I feel like, "Oh, I was the only one that went through it," and it's clear that that wasn't the case,
Mhm.
especially, the same village that you receive when you have a baby, how everyone comes at you when you have a baby, the same kind, of village when you open up your business. That love and support is there, and it's so nice, and I wish I knew that beforehand because I thought I was gonna do it all alone, and I wanted to stay in that corporate world. But I just struggled so much with the 9 to 5, and I didn't realize how much, and I thought it was just me. I thought there was something wrong with me. I thought,
Mhm.
"Why can't I just focus? Why do I have to know about this person's, like, niece's birthday from the weekend?" Like
Mhm. Mhm.
I just needed to know about everyone's weekend. I needed to know how their daughter was doing because they left home sick yesterday, and I could not just focus on my work. And
Mhm.
if someone was upset with me, I would just be so, like focused on that all day. And I thought I was just alone in that. And
Well, because it doesn't shut off, right? It doesn't end. I mean, you're at work, you've got these other things that you're doing, but all the things going on in the world around you, all the things going on in your life, in your family life, in your friends' lives, those things don't stop, right? And so it sounds like one of the things that you maybe had a hard time with was recognizing that your brain is kind of making space for both of them, but again, that maybe other people have a hard time with that too.
yeah, and you know, I wanna say that the most rewarding thing about the job is that I have a lot of um, people that help me, like, in my job, I have, like, assistants or, like, a vendor or, like, my website designer, all these people around that help me, and they've all been women, not I mean, they've all just understand the struggles that I went through, but then there's level of service, like it looks like you are, Christy, is that it's like they understand that it's not just the service that's provided, but we need that kind of added therapy that goes along with it
Mhm.
that I think is not like an add-on, it's like a necessity when it comes to service. Sorry, I'm, like, randomly talking about this, but I think it's important to know, like, this idea of, like, having, female-owned businesses is not just, "Hey, we want a seat at the table, like, we wanna do it." It's like, "No, we are providing a service that nobody else can provide." And it's
Yeah.
clear from all of the people that I work with that they are providing the service that I want, and it's only that they can provide, that I need that. Like, my accountant has to give me a little financial therapy as well, like, "You can do this," or the web designer has to work within my schedule and hold on while I get my kid off from school or tell him what to do for homework, and she's okay with it, and everybody is so much more understanding, and it's not like a you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I hear what you're saying. There's definitely something about, working with or engaging with people who've been through it themselves, right? Or even if they haven't been exactly through it, just people who can really truly relate on another level. Because that's where maybe you are going to get more empathy and more understanding, all of those sorts of things.
Yeah, and to say, "Hey, I have my own business, I can only work with those people. I don't have to
Yeah.
work with people that don't have empathy." It's great. It's the greatest
You
feeling.
get to yeah, you get to make all those choices.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what do you think or what do you wish more moms were talking openly about?
Yeah, I think because I'm a estate planner, I think more people don't talk about, after kids, like when your
Mhm,
kids are in college, what is it then? And I've seen a lot of like our moms or grandmothers' generation is just so different from what we're going to experience when we
mhm,
are retired. And the better we plan for that, not finances, I'm talking about just lifestyle. Like
mhm,
our lifestyle is going to be so different. We're not going to just be content, um, just helping someone else out or, living in our children's home, like
mhm,
there's going to
mhm,
be a different independence that we provide, that we need, that we expect. And I think all of that needs to be planned out ahead of time,
mhm.
like your desires and wants can't be said when you get sick or after you retire. It has to be clearly stated beforehand and, like,
Yeah.
thought out and discussed.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that. I mean, to your point, I mean, that was the question. What do you wish more people were talking about? It
Uh,
sounds like you feel like from your experience, maybe that's something that people aren't just not talking about, but maybe they're not even really thinking about as much as they could be. That would be really
yeah,
helpful.
there's a lot of times I'm sitting in a family meeting with all the family members, and I'll ask the question because the men die earlier, the husbands die earlier, that's is known, and I'll look to the mom or the wife and say, "Well, what are your plans once he passes or if he passes before you?" And the kids all say, "Oh, mom will live with me." And
Mhm.
and I'll look at her and she'll be like, you know, like, "Does mom live with you? Like, is that what she wants to do?" And it's so heartbreaking to know that maybe that's not what she wanted, and she's just a little too nervous to say it out loud.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. It's really interesting to hear you say that, and hopefully that's gonna get other people to start thinking about it too. I imagine everybody who's
Yeah.
listening right now is probably thinking like, "Oh, maybe I need to be thinking about that." So, yeah, I feel like I've taken up so much of your time today. I really appreciate it, but before we do start to kind of wrap up, where for people who do wanna learn more about you, learn more about the work that you do, where can they go to do that?
Yeah, ashapaulose.com. That has, all of a ton of resources, just discussing everything about estate planning, but also has a free 15-minute call. You can just chat with me, even if you're from a different state. It's just nice to get a little perspective on estate planning. And then, my Instagram, Palos Law, it has so much, things to ponder, like we talked about today.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, great. So I will, as always, I will make sure that that information is in the show notes available for anybody who wants to, learn more about you, look into those things. So before we do wrap up for today, if you could leave the listeners with one final message, one final piece of advice, what would it be?
Yeah, I would say, which is what I tell all my everybody, which is clear your desk. Like you are not going to get your work done unless you clear your desk, and that includes giving all of the burdens and all of that stuff away, like pushing it all aside, clearing it up so that you can leave space for something incredible to come to in your life.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Great. Well, thank you again, so much for being here. I know you talk about the flexibility, but I also know that your time is valuable. I always appreciate, people sharing their time. So I just really want to express my gratitude for that. And then as always for the moms listening, if any of it resonates, if you found the things that we talked about today to be helpful or valuable, please share this podcast with other moms who could use some support because we're all in this together.